7, what are we calling this? Five G. No, it's not made for kids. No, don't restrict. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Dr. K in the house. Okay, let me see here. All right. And I'd like to record to show that was with like 2 seconds to spare. Just barely. I was about to claim like up to a half a minute, and then it just flipped to 5:30 right there. So, hey, how's everybody doing?
Good.
One person's doing good, so that's good. How's everybody else doing? We should be okay. Audio
Good.
should be fine. Thank you. By the way, I just have to say that I appreciated everybody, especially those of you that are willing to like unmute and give a little reaction. It's really tough when you're just minus the in-class face-to-face human reaction. You know what I mean? You don't you if it's dead silent, no reaction, there's definitely a just talking to yourself like an idiot emotion to the whole thing. Try to avoid that wherever possible.
Already?
What's that?
Nothing. Just giving you a hard time.
I didn't hear it, that's all.
Okay. Well, we'll leave it that way.
Oh, way to go, Wyatt. Nice. Hey, so it should be live streaming on YouTube. I just wanted to grab the URL of the YouTube factor. By the way, it looks like everyone's discovering the attendance channel.
Yes. Good idea.
Thanks, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, we decided, whose idea was that? One of the TAs, Devin or?
Me.
Devin, there you go. Hey, man.
Idea.
Devin's idea, everybody. Let's be really clear about that. No, it really was. It wasn't mine. But it was like, hey, why don't we just... Hang on a second. Why don't we just create an attendance channel, and then everybody can drop over there instead of gumming up the main channel. And there's a couple... All right, so we got a couple people struggling to hear stuff. This, by the way, I just put a link to the YouTube broadcast stream, whatever. Yeah. All right. Glad you like my Bitmoji of the day. I'm gonna drop the cross-stitched QR code for next week. Okay. So number one, if everybody would just hit the attendance channel, that would be great. Just mark your attendance over there, then we can pull that in. Let me give you kind of a quick update on the evolution of everything. Okay, how's that? Is that overly broad as a topic?
a bit much to cover in a single class.
No, well, right. But I can't cover anything in a single class, so it doesn't much matter, does it? So, and I remain shameless about that, so also good. Okay. So I just wanted to show you what I've got going on. You're going to see this from my view, okay, as the whatever I am, the owner person on the channel thing. But a couple of things I did. So over here on assignments, and again, this is all kind of evolution, right? Because I'm evolving. So number one, I got this week's attendance are up. The green light says public. We will do that. Me and Devin and Tim are going to do, or we'll take care of that. You just sign the roll. We just make sure that all the stuff, gets credit. If you're watching, if there's something like we've talked about, you try to be here on time. What I mean is on the day when we're doing it, at the time we're doing it. And, but things come up, right? Whatever, baby's sick, stuff happens, car breaks down, no car, whatever. You couldn't get back home to watch, whatever. You let me know and we can work with you on attendance stuff. So if you're watching this later, then just, connect with me on that. Then ignore that. Is that readable for you guys? Can you read that okay? Let me make it one more bump. Okay, the next thing I've got is the setting up your blog, okay? And so this assignment just basically says, please provide the link to your blog. Okay, it would be really nice if you provide it as a clickable link. Throw a little HTTP voodoo sauce on the front of that thing so it just drops in your assignment as a clickable link. And then give us something creative for a blog name. When I taught this class at BYU, the course number was 404. So blog not found was not fresh after about, the first 5 blogs the first semester ever. So, just do something creative. You can't come into like my 305J blog, and then get excited about anything. You're sucking the soul out of yourself. So what I'd like you to do is just have that ready by the end of the weekend. Does that sound good? Just like Sunday?
Yeah, that should.
Sunday night?
Is it okay if it looks pretty general, even if it has like a creative, or how much work do you have to put?
In the blog? It has to exist and have a name and be a place where you can post your blog posts. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not getting overly jiggy about. If you get a good environment, good interface, wherever you're doing the thing, being sort of the code geeks that we all tend to be, you'll often find that once you got it going, you'll be just like, oh hey, ooh, check that out, and you'll tend to tweak a little bit or whatever. That's a good thing. That doesn't hurt anything. It kind of greases your skids a little bit. And then this is just the beginning right here, readings. I just did this week's. I'm just gonna keep going and getting out ahead. And what I'm gonna do for you on the schedule, like I said last time, is lay it out. So like during this week, here's what you have to do. So you don't have to try to weave all this into some master list. It'll just be right there. This week, do that, next week. So you just have to kind of just look ahead and see what's coming, but it'll be right there in the calendar, okay? Because there's a lot of parts, so I want to try to do everything I can to make it as manageable as it can so it doesn't turn into some weird madness. But as you can see, the readings for Tuesday, I just want to make sure if you haven't already that you read the syllabus. Cool? And that's going to be, I'd like you to, read that by the end of the weekend. Again, just by Sunday night. Cool? And then the other reading, which is today, also due Sunday night, would be the 2 stories that are on the calendar for today. Okay? Yeah. Oh, and whoever's got a lot of background noise, if you can mute yourself, that would be fantastic. Hang on. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Hey, so just really quick, Is that how the format of the readings is going to be? You're going to list the date and then have it due like 5 days later or so around
No, no, it's going to be it's going to be quite different from that normally. Since we're just kind of getting a slow start, we're just like, yeah, make sure you get that this week and, have it due by the end of the week. Ordinarily, what's going to happen is, I mean, let's just say that we're going to talk about, security hacking one day, right? Or, there's going to be some date out there where we're going to talk about the cuckoo's egg. Well, all the blog posts about the cuckoo's egg and finishing reading that book would all be due before that. So typically what we'll do is if there's a day like, whatever, we're going to just talk about, security on a certain day, the little articles or whatever that are going to be reading and the blog post for those things would happen before class that day. And usually what I do is make it a number of hours beforehand, like noon on the day of class, something like that. What I don't want is the whole, it's due at the end of class, so everybody's just looking stuff up instead of being part of the discussion. And by having the reading and the blog posting all due beforehand, you come into the thing having processed a little bit. You've done the reading, you've written your own blog post, and then the discussion just gets way better.
Gotcha.
So yeah, really good question. And then in every case, you just indicate the percentage. If you're like, I read 50%, we'll give you 50% of the points for that day, for the reading.
If we can like regurgitate, if we've taken your class before, if we can regurgitate the key points that usually want to take us out of these two stories, other than Doors of Ignorance, I'm mainly talking about the fish, take the fish. If we can regurgitate like the core means you're trying to get us to understand about that, can we just like pass that reading if we can prove it to you?
You have to let your conscience be your guide on that one, Wyatt. So A, you're going to have to A, acquire conscience. B, tune it properly. No, seriously, for some of you, that fish story is so short, you should just give it a reread. It won't hurt you any. But honestly, if you're just like, no, I really, really went through that and I know what the thing is and I'm good and that's, you know what I mean? I'm okay. I'm not going to pierce your soul and see your crime. You know what I mean? You be the judge on that thing. But I think that, I've read that fish story a lot of times. It hasn't hurt me. Same thing with the Orders of Ignorance. Another run through is going to evoke certain things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So, but as for how you deal with that, let your conscience be your guide. What? It's a fair It's a totally fair question because there's probably about a quarter of the students in the class that have, endured the philosophical ramblings of one mad Professor Knudsen, and maybe already, I don't know, This is it. This is life in my world. So, okay. Any questions about class stuff? I am the ghostwriter. What else? Let me see. Real quick. So in summary, the blog setup, get that done by the end of Sunday night. There's no style points on that. If you don't have a blog ready by the end of Sunday, I'll dock you a couple of the points from the blogging percentages. As for readings, you know what they are today. The readings, by the way, on a daily basis are not meant to be really crazy cumbersome. It might be 2, 3, 4 articles, but I think they'll be interesting articles, that'll be kind of contemporary. In my perfect world, most of the articles would be from 2020. So they would be but there's a lot of stuff where it's, there's an important historical moment where there's something to say and there's an article written some years ago. Everybody knows about the attendance channel now. How did you guys find out? Did somebody like Devin or somebody? Did somebody ping you about using that?
Yeah, someone, just in general, someone said, hey, use this instead. I think it was probably one of your TAs.
Okay.
And he just said, use this. It was like,
okay.
It was me.
All right. Okay. Way to go, Devin. Thank you. I knew I dragged you in here for a reason, right? Yeah, no, that's, in fact, another reminder just for anybody coming late, go over to, if you wouldn't mind maybe Devin or anybody just dropping a little note saying, hey, if anybody's coming in late, go hit the attendance channel. And then the other one that there's been just a little bit of, not a lot of questions, but a little bit, is LinkedIn. LinkedIn, LinkedIn is actually a little bit of subjective grading, where I'm going to look at that and try to give you specific feedback. You know what I mean? Like if your picture looks like this, I think that's a problem. If there's a bunch of principles about making a LinkedIn profile look professional. You know what I mean? That sort of says I'm somebody you want to hire. So I will try to give feedback on that. And therefore I want to give you time to do that. And we'll talk a little more about that, but that's going to be out there like a few weeks. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not really time intensive. I just want to make sure that you have a little bit of time to do that and have it shine, to really, really have it shine. So those are the main things I had for my notes. And I think, yeah. So are there any other questions about that stuff?
I had assumed I knew what that QR code was, but could you clarify?
No, you just have to hit it. Hit it. I'm not going to handhold you on that one.
I'm gonna send you to a meme.
Oh,
Just
okay.
Yeah, just hit it.
It's all
I
good
want to
fun.
just say, so I had a buddy here with me this week, fellow expert witness, testifying expert, but former grad student of mine as well. He recommended a book. I want to again, the ideas. My desk has become flooded now with I'm just pulling a lot of books off my shelves. But this one right here, Countdown to Zero Day. The subtitle is Stuxnet and the Launch of the World's First Digital Weapon. He really recommended the book. I haven't read it yet. You can see you see where my little bookmark is? I put it in there because I'm going. But the virus now known as Stuxnet was unlike any other piece of malware built before. Rather than simply hijacking targeted computers or stealing information from them, it proved that a piece of code could escape the digital realm and wreak actual physical destruction, in this case on an Iranian nuclear facility. Great stuff. And there was one that I think there's some channel stuff. Let me see. Back on the general channel, there's some other ideas and some links. I think that, the Shark State posted a link we were talking a little bit after class about just sort of, a little bit about gender issues and, kind of sparked by the women in computing as a topic, which is, if you look at, I just want to give a shout out to that one. The book is entitled Invisible Women, Exposing Data Bias in a World Designed for Men. And my copy is on the way. I actually have a book on my front porch right now, but I haven't been to the porch today to look. Which one? I don't know if it's that one. I could go look. But that one looked really, really great. And then there was one other one that I was talking to one of you about. I'm finding myself trying to be cautious about, outing people by name. But this one was a book entitled, where is it? Hang on a second. It was called The Kingpin. Yeah, here we go. The subtitle was How One Hacker Took Over the $1 Billion Cybercrime Underground. Okay. I mean,
Is that about Paul Laro?
What's that?
Paul Laro? Is that
The author?
the person?
Oh, you mean who the individual was? I have no idea. Because I haven't read it yet.
Oh man.
I'm looking right now. I'm looking on Amazon, but anyway, it looks just like so great, and then I'm getting, and this is just a couple that are related to security, Well, one of them related to sort of more social issues and gender issues, and then this one related to security, Countdown to Zero Day as well. Anyway, that's to me what's so cool about this class. We get to kind of hit just all the really super cool stuff. because we're just super cool. That's how we roll. Okay, let me see. Let me just hit really quick any of the other. Where are we at here? Come on. Okay. Yeah. I'm just kind of scanning back a little bit. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So Franklin, when clicking on the schedule link, that's right. The schedule is just. I'm gonna publish. It's not published, so I'll publish it as soon as it's cooked. I promise you, it'll be this weekend. Okay. So John asked the question: Do we have to do this part for our blogs? I'm not sure what that sentence means. So John, if you want to jump in, you must set up. I think a colon after question would help clarify, and then quotes. You got to set up or have access to some mechanism that tells you what your traffic looks like and stuff like that. And the answer is yeah. I want you to do that. There are, Google Analytics, other stuff, other sites have like built-in stuff. It's really more of an exercise in kind of an important social media and web presence bit of learning experience, which is understanding what traffic looks like to your site. And if you were going to do this thing, more of a serious thing, right? If you were going to launch Huffington Post or, which started as a blog, the Drudge Report started as a blog. There's a lot of sites that actually just kind of started as blogs, So yeah, the answer, John, is yes. They're not hard. Let me see. Oh yeah, so Denver, I'd mentioned 1984. Hang on a second. And you're like, I don't know, where's Dr. K's copy of 1984? And the answer is within grabbing distance at all times. I have been rereading it myself, and I think it's really relevant, honestly. And I think it's always been relevant, and I think it's appropriate. I think it would be great, and the reason is because 1984, which is sort of a, what do you want to call it? I wanted to say an expose, but that's not the right word. A sort of a metaphor for a totalitarian government. It's actually explicitly George Orwell was writing about communist Russia, communist Soviet Union. Essentially, communism and socialism was what he was actually writing about explicitly, as in terms of what he was really going after. But essentially, it really is all about thought control. I mean, when we're going to talk about kind of cancel culture and maybe some First Amendment issues, right, that relate to technology, this book is really, really about. Well, this is where the word thought crime comes from, right? Comes from that book. And thought control, technology, two-way screens, one-way, two-way screens, in everybody's homes so that Big Brother can watch you and make sure that you're not doing anything that's outside the orthodoxy, where you might become dangerous by thinking original thoughts. I think that's become really, really relevant. All of a sudden, more so now than really ever. So I'm saying, yeah, if you want to read 1984 as your second book, rock and roll. I think that would be great. And I'm going to finish I did read it in 1984, I think I mentioned last time. But I do need to, I'm kind of halfway through it, and I want to finish my reread this go around. So it's really, really pertinent. Yeah, man. Let me see. Franklin mentioned Darknet Diaries, if anybody's interested. I don't know anything about it, but sounds like a great podcast. And then Mason, I don't know exactly what Medium's built-in stuff is. My guess is that it's going to be sufficient. That's my strong guess. And with WordPress, I think you can plug in some kind of Google Analytics plugin or something, or there's some Weave thing, then you can do it separately from Google Analytics. I haven't even checked my own like blog traffic for quite a while. So anyway, no, thought control was not a part of the LSD experiment conducted by the CIA. Was that being facetious and funny, or was that a straight up question? I don't know, because it's kind of both, and there was crazy stuff. But no, this is really about thought police, and the thought police and thought crime is very much, in my view, related to the Overton window, which we're going to talk about at some point. And then we've got some folks, tossing out China and North Vietnam, and yeah. Anyway. So Mason, Brave New World. Now here's the thing. 1984, there's a very strong technology component. Same with Fahrenheit 451, which, if anyone's read that one, Ray Bradbury, the late Ray Bradbury. I think he passed away. Such a brilliant writer. But robotic enforcement dogs and again, kind of the thought police thing. I would go green light on Fahrenheit 451. Brave New World, honestly, I would go yeah as well. But I view Brave New World as being a lot less about technology, which doesn't mean it's not appropriate. You know what I mean? As a thing, I'd be okay with all of those. Because I just think that we've reached a point where there's so much pervasiveness. Like I had to do a short rental of a U-Haul truck. Ready Player One, absolutely on Ready Player One, Franklin. And by the way, the movie, a shadow of the book. The book was so much better. Seriously, I loved that book, especially if you grew up and you know all the references. The pop culture references are so dense.
That was so good.
They're so dense. Yeah. The book was amazing. Okay. Let me just see. So yeah, but I'd go green light on Brave New World, green light on Ready Player. I mean, these are just like sci-fi novels, but crap, I mean, what, everything has to be boring? I don't think so. So let me see. Okay, love the discussion about the documentation, the ways of automating attendance. If you guys have a cool way to kind of like scrape stuff out of a Discord channel to rock attendance, that would be so sweet. So on, let me see, J-Dogstar, whoever you are, I don't know anything about manufactured consent. I mean, I know what those words mean, but I don't know what it is. I assume it's a book. I'm looking it up real quick. Chomsky. Okay. Let me see. The political economy of the mass media. Okay, that looks amazing. Let me see. Okay, now check it out. This is the little what do you call it? The blurb, the little pull quote, whatever. Says in this path-breaking work, Edward Herman. I don't know Edward Herman. I do know Noam Chomsky. I first knew about Chomsky from Chomsky's Hierarchy, right? In fact, a lot of linguists are shocked to discover that Chomsky is like massively influential in computer science, in languages and grammars and stuff. But he was a linguist first and foremost, and a really strong leftist politically. I think that's pretty well known, about Chomsky. So contrary to the usual image of the news media as cantankerous, obstinate, and ubiquitous in their search for truth and defense of justice, in their actual practice, they defend the economic, social, and political agendas of the privileged groups that dominate domestic society, the state, and the global order. Okay, that sounds crazy fascinating. And the thing about that is that relates, and the reason why I'm adding it to my cart right now. First of all, I'm buying about every book that anybody's recommended to me this semester so far, just to drop it into my, just put it in the big hopper that feeds into my brain, every year. So that looks really, really. Oh, so let me see. The book. So yeah, in answer to the question, is it anything fiction, nonfiction, as long as it pertains to technology? And the answer is ish. And the reason the answer is ish and not yes is, the specification for the ARM processor in the Raspberry Pi, that wouldn't count. Your calculus textbook would not count. So it has to relate to computers and society, the ethical issues, you know what I mean? The sociological questions, historical. Does that make sense? So let me see. What's sequel? The sequel to Ready Player One? If they call it Ready Player 2, I'm going to have to punch myself hard in the face because I am really sorry, but that's just not acceptable. Is that really it?
Ready Player 2.
Oh my gosh. Okay, hang on a second.
Alright,
Hang on a second. Hang on just a second. Okay, I'm better now. It's not a real monkey, okay? It is not a real monkey.
Cancel culture incoming.
I know, right? I'm dead now.
Nice.
My career is over. I punched a stuffed monkey on YouTube. And he's done nothing to deserve it, truly. My only truest loyal friend. Oh, okay. No, yeah, Ready Player... no. Ready Player 2. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Love
You know
how
what I
you're
mean?
getting
I
so
mean, we
much
already
up about
suffered
it.
through Die Harder. It's sorry. I don't know that I can go on now with this lecture. Okay.
So we can get out of here then.
No, I do like. By the way, oh sorry. What were you saying?
Nothing.
You always say that. Why you say something? I'm like, what? You're like
It's
nothing.
because the moment's gone, man.
Okay, fair enough. Ready Player One, Set Player One, and Go Player One, I think would be better. I'm right with you on that. Okay. 2 Ready 2 Player. Nice. No, but Ready 2 Player would actually even be better, right? Ready 2 Player.
Yeah,
be-
reference back to an old arcade machine.
Yeah, okay. We are Legion, we are Bob. Okay, we have to talk about that book. I didn't get as much out of it as I thought. It started with incredible promise, and I did not get. I think I read it last year. I did not get out of it what I hoped to get out of We Are Legion, We Are Bob. But it might really hit some people. Again, it's kind of technology based. Again, as long as it's just dealing with whatever, like for example, the Foundation trilogy would be very interesting from a societal perspective, and by Asimov, another sci-fi. I would be all over the Foundation trilogy. Anyway, we've reached a strange point in human history, honestly, with social media and the pervasiveness. So I started to say I had to do a short-term rental on a U-Haul, and everything that you did, I have not read the Expanse series, Josh. So any things you've got about that would be, again, as long as it's exploring the issues we're exploring, it's great. But everything was like, okay, take a picture of the odometer. The presumption is you're on for the automated pickup. Presumption is you're on your phone, and that your phone has a camera. This is just the world. Get a rental car. Assume you have a phone with a camera on it. This is the world we're living in. It's just a really, really strange thing. And if anybody wants to drop any links to some of these, that would be good. Some of these books, for there's a lot of folks I think in the class that would be super fascinated by that. Right? I do not know about Black Mirror. I know there's like a Netflix series, The Expanse. Is that based on novels? I don't know. Okay, so let me hit a few things. So, any other questions about how we're doing this class?
So what I'm getting from it is discussion based upon the ethics and sociology behind or in relation to computer science. Is that correct?
Yeah. The way computer stuff rolls out into society and affects it, impacts it.
All right.
Okay. I want to hit a couple things. I want to do a quick to the extent I'm capable. Oh, so Franklin, you were talking specifically about The Expanse as the series. I have to go look at it again to see. But I mean, the odds are probably, but again, it just can't be like, it just needs to be related to the broad questions of the ethics and the ethics of technology, but to the extent that it relates back to what we're living with right now, the better. Okay? That's better. Okay, let me see. Did anybody ever watch the new, what was it called? I can't even come up with it because I was so traumatized by it. It was Lost in Space, and I'm traumatized only because it was so poorly done. And if that offends anybody, just get used to disappointment, Sorry, Eric. I'm just sorry. The premise, fantastic. Execution, I have to go punch my monkey now. I'm sorry. I have to punch the monkey. Okay, let me do... Oh, Eric. It was just bad. I can't go into it right now. That's my... Eric, I'll hit you afterwards, okay? It was... These are supposed to be the smartest people in the world, and they just make some of the dumbest decisions, place themselves in absurd peril, where I'm sitting on my little couch with my popcorn just going, oh yeah, that's not going to end well. Hey, you left that one thing open. Wonder what's going to come through there. Oh my gosh. You got the psychopath lady. She's in a locked space in the cargo bay. What do you say to the kids? Stay out of the cargo bay. You don't need to go in the cargo bay. How about there's a freaking crazy lady locked in the cargo bay. Avoid her and don't talk to her and also stay out of the cargo bay. Like withhold information. Here's another one. Oh my gosh, I'm on a roll. The other one, it goes something like this. It's always one that's just like, what are we going to do? I got a plan. Okay? Stay right here. And it's like, no. You have to coordinate on the plan because that's just foolhardy. That's just bad project management. I got a plan. Stay right here. Hate it. I couldn't go on. I watched the first season. I couldn't continue. Sorry. Hashtag sorry, not sorry. Yeah, the Psycho Doctor was absurd. Anyway, any books, post books. If you've got books that you think would be, that you've come across, because everyone's got to pick a book for the second half, Okay, I want to do the quick pass through. Some of you know me. This is my new title for the course. This is my official title. Computers and Society and Ethics and History and Other Relevant Stuff. That's what I'm going to call this thing. And English and writing. You're going to love it when it's over. I mean, that didn't come out right. You're going to love it by the end. Clean Code by Bob Martin. I don't know it. I don't think I have it. Probably, but let's take a look at it, okay? On Clean Code. Okay, I'm going to do kind of a quick walkthrough of a little bit about me. I'm going to drop into the Orders of Ignorance. And we got till 6:45 if I've got my game on here. Okay, so here's, okay, that's my UVU. email address. Please feel free to email me there. I really, really would prefer that you not email me on Canvas. It's just a really clunk email interface, in my opinion. And there's a number. The worst offender is the fact that if you accidentally bump the escape key while composing an email, it just goes, broop. It doesn't even make the sound. If it made a sound, it would be halfway satisfying. Broop. And you'd go, oh no. It would just be like, this is the sound of no sound. So, number one way to get me on Discord. Catch me on Discord. DM me on Discord. Number two way, email me. Okay. Number three way, I don't know. Call me. Text me. Come to my house. I don't know. But Canvas is whatever then comes down that list. Carrier pigeon. Friend of a friend. Facebook Messenger. I mean, we're going to go down that list of ways. Robocall. Then we're going to get to Canvas. Okay, so if you would, I would really, really appreciate it. What else do I want to tell you about that? That's Twitter. I'm not super active on Twitter because Twitter's just become such a frickin' cesspool of hate and absurdity that it's really hard. You know what I mean? I'm either wading into the mud wrestling or I'm not, in which case I'm not doing my civic duty. I don't know. It feels like Twitter's a place where it's hard to feel like there's a great thing. You know what I mean? Hang out a little bit on Facebook and mostly my social. I do have a public facing Facebook page if anybody wants to check it out. I did do a Facebook Live. I do Facebook Live every so often. And again, they're public facing. If you're on Facebook, you can just hunt me down. And this one was actually on, I think the title of it was Breaking Down Dolly Parton and Which Lives Matter was actually, if you want to get into it. I tend to take radically rational positions about almost everything. So, really. Anyway, there's some other stuff, just other sites and stuff I'm kind of related, that I deal with. Again, some of you, this is repeat. Just wanted to kind of let people know where I've kind of been, gone, attended Iowa. I was a double major in computer science and French. Computer science and Italian, minor in French. Mason, we'll talk about social media, whether it was actually a mistake. I don't know that it was a mistake, because I think there's a lot of things that are a mistake. Anyway, but eventually kind of settled in, did all my degrees in computer science, although in between every degree, I paused to try to figure out if that's really what I wanted to go on and do the next degree in, I mean, I debated linguistics. I debated, there were other fields I didn't even know they existed. I didn't even know what sociology was, or I probably would have been all over it. I didn't even know there was a field called computational linguistics, or I would have done it. Sorry, I have there we go. I lost my mouse. Yeah, did my PhD at Oregon State. Now, this one's important. Again, some of you are only second or third semester. Some of you are further in the program. But I just want to say the purpose of this little slide is just to say, look, I went through the flame out of death academically, right? Where I flunked out so hard that it took me 5 years to get back to college. I'm 28 when I finished my undergrad. I'm 34 when I finished my master's. I'm 38 when I finish my PhD. I'm 40 before I get to kind of full-time faculty position. And the moral of the story, and I just really want to just say this, it's really never late. It's never, ever late to educate, to get a degree, to do the things you're going to do. Truly, 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 I'm an absolute fan. If you were 60 and you were like, I don't know, should I go back? Should I go to law school? I would say, hell yes, go to frickin' law school if you're 60, I would. I might do it myself. I got to figure that out. But I've honestly thought about it. There's no reasonable limit. You know what I mean? Productive careers these days, if you take care of yourself and you don't just sit in front of the television set and watch the evening news, you can, your career. Oh yeah, okay. I don't know who Nesp is, but your dad's starting school next year at 62. That makes me so incredibly. That's older than me, by the way, and you know what I'm saying. That makes me so happy. Seriously, there's great career into. I don't even know what the terminal age really is now. 75. And what are you going to do anyway? Turn 62, take early retirement, sit in the rocking chair and die in 2 years like my grandpa did? I don't think so. Okay, anyway, I'm just saying, man, just keep going. It's not over. Did cool professional things, HP, Novell, Counterpoint. The coolest things were really kind of at Kinpoint where I did the genealogy stuff and interface design, a lot more interface design. But at Novell, we were like the Google of the day for like, I don't know, a year or two. We grew. There was 1 year that we were the fastest growing, like stock price in the tech industry, faster than Microsoft at the time. And that was back at Novell. And at Counterpoint, we were doing short range infrared data communications and Bluetooth stuff, and shipped product in 1 billion units. So, in fact, here's what's kind of cool. Actually, I was at the in Cupertino. There's a museum of computing history. I don't know exactly what it's called. Maybe if somebody wants to drop a link, that would be great. If you want, if anybody mind just like looking that up and dropping a link. But there's a computing museum in Cupertino, California, and I went there. I've only been there one time, but when I went in there, there were literally 2 products that I had worked on that were in the museum. That's cool. You can't like go in and say that's my goal, but trying to think if I know when was. So yeah, Kayla, let me know when Brad was actually there. I was there 89 to 94, and I'm just saying there is so much cool stuff to do professionally, and I've just done a ton of it, and I've always kind of interleaved the professional and the academic. I'm not a traditional academic. I really think that's fair. But, I was on faculty at Oregon State for a year, BYU for 14 and a half years, UVU now since 2018, and I've done a bunch of other teaching and stuff. But what's really interesting is just how much I've really dug this kind of stuff. This has been really the great stuff, Oh, yeah. So, yeah, Richard Jones. Okay, what's your connection to Richard Jones, Mr. Chapter 7? Okay, yeah. Oh, no, yeah, absolutely no, Richard. We were in similar areas for multiple years, so I know him fairly well. Anyway, and then the other things that you really ought to know about me, next time you see him, just ask him if he knows me. And then whatever he tells you, just discount it. It's probably not true. He's exaggerating. There were no police involved on that one occasion, I swear. Anyway, so yeah, the personal Chuck. Again, some of you know me about, I got a bunch of kids. Love language stuff. Love to learn languages. I lost my summer, right? It was June like 3 days ago. And then all of a sudden it was like, frick, it's almost September. I don't know how it happened. But anyway, music, I mentioned this for some of you that are in 2810 actually right now, that we have the School of Rock. In fact, let me do it really quick. I'm going to give you an invite to the School of Rock. And any of you that are like just instrumentalists, or you just love music, or we've been trying to consider, there's the invite to the School of Rock. Zero pressure, right? That's really just if you want to, we wanted to try to put together some kind of, do some recording, do it remotely, piece together some video stuff. You can tell we did a lot of discussion of music, but we didn't actually produce any music, which I'm blaming on everybody but myself. That's just how I roll. Anyway, but yeah. So, and if anyone's just like curious about the discussions about music and what have you, just feel free to join the School of Rock. And it's sort of, sounds like every band. Yeah. We have had some jam sessions, but anyway, I'd love to get some folks that are a little more catalytic into the School of Rock. You know what I'm saying? Tired of carrying a disproportionate weight. And then this one, I don't think I've ever used this picture before, but these are 9 of my 10 kids. And as you can see, they're kind of like, it feels like they're all the same age, you know? This was, some of you know, where we've maybe shared a little more personally, that my youngest son passed away when he was 18. And this is actually when we finally we hadn't had the whole family together for like 5 years or something. Because, these guys were in the military at the time, active duty. So we had to get them out, from that, and people on missions, and, just things that was kind of taking people away. Oh, really? Tina. Wait, no, I have a daughter, Tina. Yeah. So, yep. All right. Oh, we'll have to talk after. Anything she's told you about me is not true, is what I'm saying. Anyway, this was actually in the waiting room at the hospital, and Tad's in another room, just wired to high heaven, and we all gathered because it was not going to end well. But I love this picture, you know what I mean, because it's that high tension, crazy, sad, you know what I mean, that kind of horrible scenario, but it's just kind of like the love, you know what I mean, and the smiles and it was just, that moment was like a kind of a sacred moment, just this gathering, even though the backdrop of everything going on was just horrific, But anyway, little bit of insight into who are the people that Dr. K hangs out with. Also, three of these folks are adopted. 6 of them are birth children. And the cool part is, you can't really figure it out. Thanks, Erica. You really can't figure it out. Nobody's ever guessed correctly on a family picture, like which ones are the adopted ones, which I think is remarkably cool, actually. Because it doesn't matter to me, that's for dang sure. So I want to talk about, I want to drop in and do a little bit of philosophy of learning, a little bit of learning according to Dr. K. And I want to talk a little bit about the fish story. In fact, what I think I'm going to do, the fish story, as I call it, the fish story. The story was called "Take This Fish and Look at It." Written by this guy, Samuel Scudder, and this is the professor, Luis Agassiz. And I can't remember where Scudder goes to grad school. Somebody want to look that up? I'm sure there's a Wikipedia article about Samuel Scudder. But I want to just bring up, actually, somebody got that? And I'm just pulling up the actual the text. Let me get a better looking app to show you that with. All right, here we go. And I'm going to blow it up for you. I'm going to try to blow it up for you. There we go. And I can also make it bigger. All right, and I don't need that. I want to just hit a couple parts. I do want you to read it. It's really short. That's the whole story right there. 2 pages. 4 if you look at it as, 2 pages per sheet. Yeah, so Scudder went to Harvard right there. So this is rolling into Harvard way back in, I don't know, when is it? I mean, he dies in 1911, so it had to be like, 1860, something like that, right? when he's a young student. And again, some of you know the story. But let's hit a couple things. So, and again, I got the big screen over here, so that's why I'm pivoting this way. So what happens is Scudder shows up at Harvard, and he wants to be an entomologist, right? He wants to study insects. Why anybody would want to do that is beyond me. But that's cool because I don't have to be an entomologist. They get to. So that's fantastic. But there they are, right? And he goes in to take this class from Professor Agassiz, who apparently was a professor of some reputation, right? And he asked him a little bit about what he wanted to do, and kind of oriented him just a little bit. And then and he told him he wanted to study insects. And so he says, when do you want to begin? And he says, now. And very well. And then he pulls down this big jar, right, with the yellow formaldehyde. I don't know, what is that? What is the liquid in there? Formaldehyde?
Ammonia, I think.
Is it ammonia? No.
I think
Is it?
that preserves. Because I know that preserves at least the human brain.
Well,
It does,
Wyatt,
ammonia.
you know.
I mean, hey.
I'm
that's
sorry.
the thing.
I'm sorry. Wyatt, what he knows about ammonia is that it specifically will preserve the human brain, not the spleen.
You
Not.
can only speak to human brain wet specimens.
Are you also an expert at human brains? I just feel really left out. That's my bottom line here. I'm feeling like I missed the human brain train. You know what I mean? But it's all like, is that it?
Man.
I don't know what the yellow liquid is. That's all. That's where I really started. If someone can come up with that, that would be great. Wyatt knows a lot about the human brain. All right. Anyway, and he teaches him how to take the fish, And he says, take this fish, and look at it. We call it a hamulon, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. By and by, I will ask you what you have seen. And then he says, with that, he left me, and a moment returned with instructions about how to take care of the fish, right? So, no man is fit to be a naturalist who does not know how to take care of specimens. And, tells him about how he was supposed to keep it wet and whatever. Somebody come up with what that liquid is? I'm going to go with formaldehyde. I'm just going to guess, top of my head. Wyatt's banking solid on ammonia, but he also knows that it only extends to human brains for sure. So if you guys could look that up, that would be great. So he tells him all about it, and then he says, and this is kind of the key, right? Brain juice. Eric. Thank you, Google. Thank you, Google, for that formaldehyde. Brain juice. Eric. That only preserves it when you're alive. Okay. So, he says, here we go, right here. He says, still I was conscious of a passing feeling of disappointment, for gazing at a fish did not commend itself to an ardent entomologist. He kind of then just says, my friends were annoyed, by the smell of formaldehyde. And by the way, I never did a cadaver lab, but I did do some dissection stuff in biology in high school. I still remember distinctly that smell. It must have been the same stuff. Okay, this is the key. Okay, some of you already know where I'm going with this. You already know the punchline. He goes, in 10 minutes I had seen all that could be seen in that fish and started in search of the professor. Okay, quick discussion time. What's the problem? In 10 minutes, I had seen everything that could be seen in that fish. Bueller? And what do you think? What's that, Mason? Or, sorry, who was speaking?
Jillian,
Yeah.
I said he didn't know what to look for yet.
No, I think absolutely. Yeah, that's right. He didn't know what he didn't know. I mean, he didn't have a framework, right? He didn't possess a framework to even know like what you would look for. Does that make sense? Like, here's an example. I was talking to a friend recently, and we were just kind of sharing music stuff, and so I play bass, I play guitar, I play drums, and other stuff. But those are kind of my main instruments, and he wanted to know. He's like, "There's this thing in this song. I really not a musical guy, more of a was definitely a vocalist, but more of kind of like the Broadway musicals kind of vocalist, and not really like a rock and roll vocalist, if that makes sense. And somebody whose musical tastes were a little different from mine, but nicely complementary. Anyway, he said there's this really, really cool part, and then he said, I don't know whether it's a guitar or a bass. Right? I'm like, well, show me. Let me see it. Let's listen, So he cranked it up, and it was a guitar. And then he said to me, and it was a very sincere, and this is a guy with a PhD, okay, in computer science. And he said very, very humbly, very, interested to learn. He said, how do you tell if what you're listening to is a bass or a guitar? Right? And the question, I wasn't like, what, you dumb? What's your problem? I mean, I had no reaction like that. It was just, that you got to get rid of that stuff after junior high, probably, where everybody mocks you for not knowing the answer to something that they don't know the answer to either, That's the ethic. But anyway, he just sincerely asked me, and I was just like, I hadn't even really thought about the question because I just knew from my own experience, right? I mean, part of it is the notes they can play. A bass is like 2 octaves lower than a guitar. But it's the same low 4 strings, just tuned 2 octaves different. But part of it is the notes they can play, but also it's the tone. There's a tonal quality. And even the kinds of things they tend to play. And I realized that I had this innate sense so that when I'm listening, I'm teasing out. I can tease out and hear that bass line, hear that, hear the different guitars or, hear different instruments or what have you. People that get really, really, okay, so thanks, Catherine. What am I trying to say? That he didn't even really know like how to ask the next questions. He didn't know what even to look for. Really, back to, whoever made that comment about, didn't even know what to look for, right? Okay, let me keep going. So he said, so he goes 10 minutes in, and he's bailing, and he's going, and he's going to go find the professor who had left the museum, gone. And when I returned, he just looked, you see him, I'm lingering over some odd animals in the upper apartment. That's the 1860s equivalent of, so I jumped on and I checked my Instagram. It's the same, it's like the same thing today, right? I jumped on the web for something. The fish is dry and he's like, oh great, I ruined the fish. Little excitement over, nothing was to be done right here. Nothing was to be done but to return to a steadfast gaze at my mute companion. Half an hour passed, an hour, another hour. The fish began to look loathsome. I turned it over and around, looked it in the face, ghastly. From behind, beneath, above, sideways, at 3/4 view, just as ghastly. I was in despair. You felt like this, right? At times where somebody gives you some task and you have no freaking idea even how to start, right? It's just demoralizing because you just don't know what anything is. So he said, eventually it's like lunchtime. He puts it away, goes to get an hour of lunchtime. On my return, I learned that Professor Agassiz had been at the museum but had gone. I would not return for several hours. Students were too busy. He tries to go surf the web some more. Tries to go play, Fortnite or whatever the equivalent was. Slowly, I drew forth that hideous fish with a feeling of desperation again, looked at it. And then he says that he wasn't supposed to use a magnifying glass, no instruments, interdicted. Great word to just weave into casual conversation at a dinner party. Somebody can look that up and drop it in the chat. My two hands, my two eyes, and the fish. It seemed a most limited field. And then where's he go next? I pushed my finger down its throat to feel how sharp the teeth were. Started counting the scales in the rows, convinced that was nonsense. And then he's like, wait, I could draw the fish. Now, this is really interesting. He says, I would draw the fish. And then he says, and now with surprise, I began to discover new features in the creature began to discover new features in the creature. Okay? What happened? What just happened? What say you, my friends? What's going on? Why? What changed? What changed? In 10 minutes, he saw everything. Right? Stares at it, sticks his finger down his throat, does whatever. Finally, he's like, wait, I'm going to draw it. What happened? Right. So, Josh, he did look at the fish in a new way, but what? Why? What do you
When
mean?
you're drawing, you have to look, because otherwise you're just recalling symbols in your mind.
Yeah.
So you have to actually look to draw something.
Yeah. No, that's right. It's a certain way of it. First of all, it activates a different part of the brain. You know what I mean? Because now you have a task. There's a secondary goal, right? One of the things that I've studied, actually I had a grad class on it, which is unusual and strange, but it was a course on program comprehension. And what that meant was the cognition of the process by which humans, engineers, people like us, look at code that you didn't write, or that maybe you did write, but so long ago that you don't remember it. So like a month. And by which you look at the code and try to figure out what it does, right? Well, it turns out that if you just give someone code and then go, hey, just study the code, just spend some time with it. I'll be back in a while to ask you questions. You suck. Everybody sucks at that. But if, on the other hand, you say, I want you to take this code and I want you to write test cases for it. Now, just think about that idea, okay? Think about any of you yourselves. And I don't even care how much code. 20 lines, 200 lines, 200,000 lines. Doesn't matter. Someone just gives you code and goes, look at this code, right? Take this code and look at it. I'll be by to check your work, to see what you've seen. How frustrating, right? Look at the code. I'm just looking at the code. Right? You with me on this? But if I said, here's some code, I need you to make test cases for it. In your own mind, as you think about that, how dramatic does the world shift? What do you think? I'm just curious what your own experience is. And right, Jacob, so right, I feel like teaching a topic, it's the same thing. I'm going to give you this code and PowerPoint on a laptop, and your job is to make a class, a lecture in which you explain this code. Teach it. It engages different parts of the brain. Right. And then Tyler said, drawing's creative. You don't know what you don't know until you try to recreate something. And then you notice things because it's a different act. Instead of an act of looking, it's actually an act of creation. And it engages a different part of your brain, which is just, and Brickmaker, whoever you are, creatively looking, again, that creative thing. So these are really great comments. But think about it yourself, just your own emotion. What jumps out at you? Anything else? How would you feel when you contrast those two different goals? One really no goal, just look. The other, write test cases for this. Right? How does that change? How does that change your own emotion just thinking about it? What do you think?
It makes me feel like I can target specific parts and try to break the code in that respective part rather than the whole picture.
Right. It modularizes it, right? So if I'm doing the fish, I can be like, you ever do like coloring programs? I'm getting this. You guys are like Fortnite or whatever. I'm like, I got my little coloring program here on my iPad. No, but there's a coloring program I have. There's sometimes it's, look, I'm old, okay? And there's sometimes there's a mood that just hits you and you need to just color. Are you with me here? This, by the way, I've just equipped you to mock me to scorn. But I want to show you, this is something, right? What did I do to this picture? I'm working on this. I just did the butterflies, right? Just like, it's just therapeutic when you're listening to something or winding down for bed or whatever, right? In other words, I broke the thing down. I didn't try to grok the whole thing, just focus, right? When you focus, that's another thing that happens. I'm really proud of this, by the way. So you go ahead and make fun of me. It's all fine. I'm good. But I like this. Right? It's a different task. And it allows, so if I was thinking, if I'm drawing a fish, there's some point at which I'd be like, okay, the little fin units, whatever they're called, right? They're probably called fin units. So, right? There's a point at which you could just start going, grok, stranger in a strange land, right? So, and I don't think that one is a good one for the class, by the way. No, right? I would start by just drawing the fin, and I'd focus in, and I'd have to drill down to just draw the fin. I think I would do that. And as I'm looking at each one, it's almost like double clicking on it, and it gets bigger all of a sudden. So in other words, once he had goals and objectives, right? Happy little fin thinking, Delia. I'm going to do that like later on today. I know I'm going to be working on that. Happy little butterfly wings. Happy little wings. You know I will. You know I will think it at least. Let me see. Yeah, right. So, so Brickmaker says, code you just want to get done. And when doing test cases, you're thinking of how many different ways can I break it? Motivation. Looking at the code, like how long do I have to do this? Okay. Now this is really the point, because we're down to the wire here with about 5 minutes or so. The only thing that changed was in the head of the developer. Thank you, Mason. In the head of the developer, it got me on that. In the head of the student, Mr. Scudder, that was the only place that anything changed. Okay? The only place that anything changed was in the head of Mr. Scudder. Now, here's the interesting thing. Now, fast forward, it's 2020, right? You've kind of grown up in a bit of a spoon-fed culture, I think educationally. You know what I mean? I don't mean that in like some strictly pejorative sense. And the reason I use the word like pejorative is because if you want to take issue with it, you have to first go look up the word pejorative, and that is when I can make my escape, break free, and leave, and avoid the conflict. So, but no, there's that we've just gotten too good pedagogically. We've gotten too good at teaching and education, and there's a spoon-fed thing. I've built educational software, right? I am writing a book about how to release dopamine in your head when you're using software. This is a thing. But today, in this culture, I think that there would be a risk that about day one, the students would start pissing and moaning and probably talking to the chair, maybe the dean. You know what I mean? They'd be just like, Dr. K sucks, man. I'm paying good tuition for this. And now, let's also be fair that it could be that would be appropriate because maybe really it's just that the teacher sucks and the whole thing really truly does suck. That's a possibility. So I'm not ignoring that. But I am saying that Agassiz was a worldwide expert, and I think he wanted Scudder to have an experience. That's the bottom line. Scudder's writing the story, so he's had the experience. So Agassiz praises him, right? Yeah, that's right. Pencil is one of the best devices. So he's, and then he says, well, what is it like? I love that. Well, what's it like? And then he said that, he listened to my brief rehearsal of the structure of the parts, and yeah, your comments in the comments are fantastic. So he said, he waited. I finished. He waited as if expecting more, and then with an air of disappointment, you have not looked very carefully. Right? And again, you guys would be like, you freaking suck. And then he says, you haven't even seen one of the most conspicuous features of the animal. It's plainly before your eyes as the fish itself. Look again. Now, so I really do get the sense from Scudder that Agassiz was really, really a great teacher, but he was trying to get an experience to germinate inside of Scudder. Okay? So he says, I was piqued. Oh, he left me to my misery. I was piqued. I was mortified. Another word you can use at a dinner party. Still more of that wretched fish. But now I set myself to my task with a will, right? He's internalizing. He is learning on day one how to think like a naturalist. How to think like somebody who can look at the world and start breaking it down, decomposing it, modularizing it, getting to the bottom of things. Okay. I remember once. There was just a student evaluation from a class like this one at the Y, where in the student evals, one of the students said, basically, I didn't get anything out of this class. Now, by the way, I don't care what the class is. If you literally say I didn't get anything out of the class, that's on you. I mean, the worst teacher in the world, there's something you can get out of the class. I had a class where the teacher was so bad in grad school that me and my buddies got together, taught ourselves the material from scratch out of the book. And there were a bunch of things I would say I got out of the class, starting with how to be a suck teacher and how to learn from it is still something I can get out of the class, how to not be that. So I'm just saying, that whole thing, it's on you. The student thought that they were, ripping me. They were only ripping themselves with that comment. There might have been legitimate reasons to rip me. Fine, make your case, But anyway, this student said, I'd start writing, and after about 5 minutes, I would just take out my shovel. Again, you understand that is not about me. It's not. That's about them. Because the reality is that anything you could write a paper about, or a book about, or a whole series. There's literally almost nothing in the world around you that you can't stop, double click on, go. Expand on it. Each piece, expand on it. Each piece, expand on it. There's so much to say about everything. And if you really think the world just is like there's nothing to say, then you're truly not thinking very deeply. And what I'm going to do is, so he said, I discovered one new thing. We're about out of time, and I'm going to wrap up for today. I discovered one new thing after another until I saw how just the professor's criticism had been. That's another revolution. He could finally see how just the criticism had been. Because before that, he didn't know what he didn't know. And once he began to know more things, now he could actually understand more things that were being said to him. Okay? And then he said, the afternoon, check out this, the afternoon passed quickly. See the contrast? Isn't that amazing as a contrast? And then toward his close, the professor inquired, do you see it yet? And he said, no, I'm certain I do not. But I see how little I saw before. Okay, this is the orders of ignorance. This is the precursor to the orders of ignorance. Okay? And then he says, you know, I said, I'm certain I do not, but I see how little I saw before. And he said, that is next best. Now, I would even argue that might even be most best, frankly, because that's the pivot to a certain form of enlightenment. To know what you don't know, to see what you don't know, is really a step on the path to enlightenment. And then he says, but I won't hear you now. Put away your fish and go home. Perhaps you'll be ready with a better answer in the morning. I'll examine you before you look at the fish. So what he's really saying is, and I'm going to pause there on the story. What he's really saying is, go home. Don't look at the fish anymore. Just think about it. And then tomorrow morning, after you've just been thinking, without looking at the fish anymore, I'm gonna come and just ask you what you know differently. Okay. Moral of the story here, everybody, is just this is about how to learn. This is about how to lean forward in your skis when it comes to your own education. Okay. This is about how to own your own learning, because you know that when your degree is done and you're out of UVU and you've got that engineering job, you know, you think you're done reading? Think you're done reading? No. Guess how much reading you're going to have to do for the rest of your life in this career to learn about how that framework works, how that language works, what this is, what that is, what the spec is. You're going to be reading information nonstop and learning nonstop. And it is through the Dunning-Kruger effect, Eric. We should, and we are going to talk about the Dunning-Kruger effect somewhere along here. I don't know exactly where I'm weaving that in, but yeah, we have to. We have to talk about that. But no, reading Stack Overflow, and it's not just like, I got to go to Stack Overflow to look up what to do today. It's not going to help you with that. But if you're just like, I need one line of code, you know, I just need one line of code that does a thing, and it's really more clarification of the documentation. I'm just saying you are constantly going to have to figure crap out for the rest of your career. Constantly. And if you're doing it right, you will spend the rest of your career and the rest of your life living on the edge of knowledge, which means you have to live in ignorance. The edge of knowledge is ignorance, right? If I'm constantly learning nonstop every day, I am in ignorance nonstop every day while I pivot and come to knowledge. But I got to get out to ignorance before I can get to knowledge. You see what I mean? So that recognition about what you know and what you don't know is huge. We're out of time. We're a little bit over. I apologize. Yeah, we'll talk about your imposter syndrome, Terry. I mean, Eric, sorry. Two first names. Anyway, let's wrap there, because Scudder's got to go home and think about it overnight. You guys think about this for the weekend. I have a task to perform. We're all imposters, by the way. I want to just say that to Mason and Eric and gang. I was talking to the same friend about everybody basically who finishes a PhD, and you walk out and they start calling you doctor somebody, and you feel like such a frickin' fraud. Everybody does, because you know what I mean? What you did, you're the expert at. It doesn't seem that crazy. And everybody else seems so smart, and you're like, I don't know why they gave me this degree. Really? I'll take it, you know? Anyway. Hey, let's wrap right now. And I'll hang out for just a couple minutes, but then I got to bust out of here. I need food. Sad to say. I have some Costco dogs in my freezer that are... So having the blog done is due by Sunday night. And I'll put the thing up on Canvas. It's already up. Look on Canvas. Okay? Everybody, have a great weekend. Man, I hope it's a great semester for everybody. Hit me up if you want to just chat anytime. Hit the School of Rock if you want to jam with us. and do things that are going to help you to be a little better off in this whole quarantine-ish climate. You know what I mean? Be kind to people. Be kind to people you disagree with. That's my mantra of the day. How's that for today? Be kind to people you just don't agree with. I think the world needs some of that right now. Let's be really straight. So, okay, anyway, hey, take care, and I'm gonna drop off here, and I will see you all Tuesday at the same time. What's that? Dr. Imposter.
Sorry, I forgot my mic was on.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome. Dr. Imposter. All right. Okay, take care, everybody.